Time now for Helping Seniors of Brevard with your host, the Executive Director of Helping Seniors, Kerry Fink. Hi, Kerry.
Hey, Jim Votro. So good to join us every Wednesday lunchtime right here on the radio, 90.3 WEJF FM and online at WEJF.net. And also thanks to those who catch this as a podcast, because we always make this available every place good podcasts are found. That's anything from Apple iTunes to Amazon Music to Spotify, iHeartRadio. We just want to get good information in the hands of seniors and families wherever they may be. But we are actually a 100% local to Brevard County, Florida charity, a nonprofit. We've been around for about 15 years. And actually, we were just putting together an article for Hometown News and realized that we are now 3 years into the Senior Resource Center, which is our location that they so kindly make available to us from Omni Healthcare. We're in the Omni Healthcare building, which is officially the called the Apollo Professional Tower. They gave us a big chunk of the second floor, and that's where our Senior Information Helpline, that's the number. I'm going to give it to you in just a moment so you get a second to grab a pencil. That's the number that handled more than 4,500 calls last year from seniors and their families trying to put together everything that could make a difference on someone's aging journey. So we get calls about everything: housing, legal, medical, financial, transportation, and the center also is a great repository for great education, and we do a lot of programs there. We have a little media studio. We do things there, and so we get to welcome wonderful people to the broadcast, like a great friend of the Helping Seniors organization. He's been helping this organization, just like John Harper, our president. They both have been involved since the day that Joe Steckler founded us, literally 15 years ago. In fact, both of them, just like our operations director, Nancy Deerdorf, were actually helping seniors back in the day when Joe was busy building up the Joe's Clubs and all that for Brevard Alzheimer's Foundation. So we really appreciate and value the longevity, the expertise, and the dedication to making life better for seniors. And there's never been a more important time to do that than there is right now. Dr. Sheldon, how are you today?
You are darn right, Kerry, because the older I get, the more senior I am. So therefore, all of the sweat equity that we put in earlier, I can now take advantage of as a recipient. But so far, I'm not a recipient. So far, we're still giving and we're giving and we're giving. So, and we want everybody out there to give in whatever way you want to as well. We can use volunteers, we can use money, we can use a lot of things. But the most important thing is that we want to be able to create something, a service which where you say, I need something, I need somebody, and you can call us and call Nancy on our hotline and say, I need this type of person. You find somebody that's reliable and trustworthy, and that's what we have as members and sponsors of Helping Seniors of Brevard.
You said that so beautifully, because, you know, this is one of the things I always say as a nonprofit. One of the things that I learned from Joe's service after he retired from the Navy, and then his decades of service to seniors here in Brevard County, is he goes, Kerry, it's not easy, running a nonprofit, because you're always having to ask people to help you support the vision. And the reality is, as I often say, you can only go as far as people will help you to go. And so that's why we always, here at the beginning of the year, we do an annual fund drive, and we have some big plans this year that we want to get to, and really looking forward to having folks help us. We'll talk a little bit about that more as we go along on the show. I want to start the show out with something that I want you to think about for your calendar right away on this Friday. This is going to be, we're talking about Friday the 13th, but this is a good thing for Friday the 13th. It is the AARP Walk with the Doc. And as you know, we have been involved in this program for getting close now to a year and a half. It originated at Merritt Square Mall. A wonderful, wonderful medical professional, Lydia Rivera, who's an ARNP. She's actually the chairperson, I think, for the whole Central Florida region, but she comes over once a month and leads our walk, which is usually someplace between 35 and 50 walkers who make their way around the Merritt Square Mall, 9 a.m. every second Friday. So this Friday, Friday the 13th, is going to be that second Friday, but we have an extra special, exciting announcement for this Friday. Lydia is going to get to take the day off, But we have Dr. Lee Sheldon, who is going to lead the walk. And you were there last month. Isn't it a fun time out?
It is. I got my orientation and a little 5-minute talk. We start off with something that is going to be exciting. I'm going to teach you how to read a label and understand what is dangerous about some of the things you may eat. And you'll look at it and you'll see, oh, I've seen those names before. I don't know what they mean. And by the time we get all done, I'm going to help you live a healthier lifestyle. And then as we take our walk, bring any dental problem you want to me. Don't open your mouth and show me your teeth. That's not going to be very useful. But if there's some questions or some advice that you're getting, I can give you a different perspective as we take that walk. So it'll be 5 minutes in the beginning. We'll talk about healthy lifestyle and how to read a label a little bit better. And then we'll talk about dentistry all you want, one by one. And we'll have a good time for better part of an hour, just walking through Mary Square Mall, getting some exercise, getting our hearts racing a little bit, and also talking about anything you want about dental care.
You know, what I really come to appreciate about this is I remember when they were first explaining they were going to set this program up, and we said, oh, yeah, we're 100% in. We have to, everything that's good for seniors is what helping seniors is all about. And I said, what I love about this program, if you've not been involved in it before, is it really hits it checks out 3 boxes. Because every time you go to the doctor is going to tell you, I need you to get out, you need to walk more, you need to be more physically active. And this is a great way to do it. And so you're inside, it's climate control. If it's too cold or too rainy or something outside, doesn't matter. Too hot outside, doesn't matter. We're in the great air conditioning there in Merritt Square Mall. And really, I remember asking this question when Lydia was starting this. I said, well, what about, is this like these 5K runs where all these super athletes are, just doing laps while we're trying to get through the first lap? Oh, no, it is designed whatever pace that makes sense for you. And there's no judgment. There's no shame in the game. If you want to do half a lap, if you want to do 6 laps, whatever you want to do, you do that. And Dr. Sheldon, I've seen people on rollators. They just do what's comfortable for them. I've seen one of our favorite people, Augie Anderson, who's a regular with us. She comes out and she's brought her grandbaby out and done the walk with the baby in the stroller. So it's just whatever you do. But the first thing is you're getting that exercise the doctor wants you to have. The second thing that happens, which is so exciting about this, is that you're getting some education and a real opportunity to speak with a medical professional, because we talked about this before. One of the things that happens is you get so precious little time with a medical professional just simply because of the scheduling and just how the system has to work so it can see everybody. But this way, you actually get to walk around, and I've seen it happen. People walk up to the doc who's leading the walk and say, hey, when I was in the doctor last time, they were saying this, what do you think? And it's just a relaxed way as you're walking through the mall to answer those questions. The third thing is it does something that's very important for all of us. It actually becomes a fun social gathering. Everybody loves getting together. They have some little snacks. They, if you're a first timer, they have some special gifts for you. They have door prizes. And one of the coolest things, Dr. Sheldon, is that little talk at the front where you are able to share some of your wisdom. And you and I have talked so much about the importance of what you eat, how it relates to your health. So this is going to be a great Friday morning.
I anticipate it will be. Last month was my orientation month. I had a good time. We had a paramedic type of person. I forgot what his exact title was, but he talked about some things that actually we talk about every once in a while too. And that was how to better understand the research that the doctor has. And there are ways in which you can get to your own research and do research on any topic. And I'll give you a source because he was very good. He brought that out first, and that's Cochrane Reviews, Cochrane, Cochrane Review. Everybody who has internet can get to Cochrane Review, and you can just type in the disease that you have, and what it does is separate out the legitimate studies from the non-legitimate studies. And then when it looks at the legitimate studies, it gives you some conclusions, which will give you some perspective, so that when you're talking with your doctor, you can say, well, what about this? What about that? What about what this says? The Cochrane Review essentially reviews all of the objective medical literature. You know, some are biased and some are not, and so it rejects the biased ones, and those that are more objective, it accepts those, and then it looks at that particular disease, all of the legitimate studies on that disease, and the conclusions the medical literature has come to. I've used it in my own life. I've used it for my patients' lives. Cochrane Review is a great place to go. So that's Cochrane Review. Just look it up on the internet. You'll be able to type in whatever problem you have, and you'll be able to see what the medical conclusions are. And it's written in patient or person-friendly language, so you can learn a lot about your own problem. And I got to tell you, I just encountered this recently. I knew more than the person who was giving me advice based on the comments.
Well, there you have it.
You've got to handle that delicately.
This is why this get together is so important. So make sure you get this on your calendar. If you're anywhere near Merritt Island, this is worth the drive. I personally drive from Palm Bay. I think it's that important and that much fun. And so what I really want to say about this is it's 9 a.m. It's about an hour long, as Dr. Sheldon was saying. We meet at the movie. If you think you come around the back of the mall where the movie theater is, that's the entrance you come in on, and right there, you walk a little bit way down the first hall, you will see exactly this big table. It says ARP in big letters, and you will join us. And it's a good thing to get there if you can, maybe 10 minutes early, and get signed in, and then you're ready to go when we go. And so we'll see you Friday morning at Merritt Square Mall.
Wait, you didn't give me the time, Kerry. What time?
Oh, well, the walk begins at 9, but good to be there maybe 8:45 or so, and just get signed in early and get to meet and start greeting. It's wonderful people who come out every month. So that's this Friday. If you have any questions, I'm going to give you the Senior Information Helpline. That's why it exists. We're there to provide every good bit of information we can. That number is 321-473-7770. But in all cases, this is just show up and join us for good fun, 9 a.m. Friday morning, Merritt Square Mall, right there, Merritt Island. Come around to the theater entrance and you'll see us, and we'll be happy to welcome you. And, you know, Dr. Sheldon, while you were talking about the Cochrane Report and some of the lecture or little informal talk that happens in front of the walk, it's a great segue into our topic that we assigned ourselves for today, called The Doctor as Advisor.
And a lot of these like that, and maybe I got that from my walk in February. You never can tell.
Oh, it could be. Well, what I like about it, though, is this is an article. Dr. Sheldon publishes good information every month in the Helping Seniors newsletter, which we call a magazine within a magazine. It goes for a ride in Senior Scene magazine, which you can find at over 500 pickup locations for free around Brevard County. And the opening, this article is going to be appearing in the April edition. Oh, no, I'm sorry. This is actually going to appear. Yeah, the April edition is You're the Doctor, You Decide. And this is really, I think, one of the things that we really want to get into, Dr. Sheldon, is I know from experience, you know, you go to the doctor's office, it's a little bit intimidating. They know, not a little bit, it's maybe a lot intimidating. They know so much more, or at least we think they know so much more than we do. And then also there's usually a rush because you just really don't get as much quality time as you would like with the doctor. And so they come in and say this, and this, and you feel, oh my goodness, I can't even question what the doctor is saying. And the head part of us knows that we are supposed to ask questions and do better. But too often we're just like, well, the doctor said I have to do this. And so the doctor said, I have to have this surgery. The doctor said, I need to take this medication. And we don't really know or even authorize ourselves to dig further than that, Dr. Sheldon.
Yeah, it's true. We get the feeling that because the doctor says that we've got to do it, and the answer is the doctor doesn't have enough time to do all the things, all the explanations that he or she might make. And the second thing is, we talked about bias before, and there are biases that we have as doctors. Where do we get our information from? Well, we do some reading, but we also follow influential doctors in our own field. And we say, well, he says that, so therefore I'm going to say that too. Understand there's a lot of nuance in medicine, and what may be important for that doctor may not be as important for you. So it's important to get that information. One thing I did not put in the article, but we'll talk about it right now. Doctors do not have enough time to speak with patients. One of the biggest frustrations that doctors have. In our office, I've got a little bit differently because it's a private practice. People are paying us for our services, and therefore we can reserve as much time as we'd like because people are paying us to do something. And before they decide to do something, we've got to give them explanations, and there's got to be some give and take. But when it goes into medicine, they're paid a certain small amount for that visit, and they've got 15 minutes to get everything out that they possibly can, sometimes less, sometimes a little bit more, but often it's only 15 minutes. The way you can make that visit as efficient as you can and get as much information as you can is to come prepared with a list of questions. Don't get into the chit chat. Don't get into stories, or you're going to lose that 15 minutes very fast. Come prepared with questions about your particular problems so the doctor can answer those questions. One of the biggest frustrations that a doctor has is when he runs late or she runs late, because when she runs late with you, then he's got to make up for the difference in the next patient or the next patient after that. It's very frustrating when a doctor is involved in a conversation when, in fact, the doctor wants to be able to give good cogent advice. That list of questions will make a big deal for the doctor and for you as the patient to be able to get the answers that you need so you can make the best decision for yourself. And that's the important thing. You are making the decision for yourself. Doctors are often influenced and are saying you need to do something, but you got to understand there's a lot of things behind that you need to do something. There's what they read in the literature. It's what they hear from the pharmaceutical rep. It's their worry about being sued by the legal profession. So all of these things are entering into a doctor's decisions. So the doctor is giving advice to you, but also the doctor is protecting him or herself. A lot of things go into it. I know it's not comfortable to hear that, but in fact, that is what's going on.
As you're describing that, I'm thinking it's a little bit like when you take a car to a mechanic with a problem. There's probably the ultimate fix for whatever the situation is with your car. Could be maybe they say trade in your car, but most of the time there is like the fix that the mechanic would prefer to install. Probably it's the most costly one, but it's also probably the most correct decision. And sometimes it just comes down to, well, I can't manage that. So what else can I do? And then we could just do this for now. And we could push this off a little bit. And there's all those things. But in a doctor's office, Dr. Sheldon, we tend to be so, we don't perceive ourselves as the customer. We perceive ourselves kind of like, as you said, you're the doctor, you decide, and we don't realize our responsibility as the customer to make the best choice that fits all the parameters. It really is a communications exercise to try to understand what the doctor is really asking you to do, and then weigh it against what is making sense and feels right to you. And so often we won't ask the right questions, or maybe, Dr. Shell, we don't even know the right questions to ask sometimes.
You may not. I mean, if you're told that you need to have surgery done, Cochrane Review is a particularly good place to go. And I've done that. In the Cochrane Review, they can say they talk about what happens if you do have the surgery, and also what happens if you don't do the surgery and what was the result. if we're biased towards doing the surgery because we like to fix things and doctors love to fix things, that's what we like to do. Well, there's always the question, well, what happens if I don't do it? The Cochrane review will be there. Now, if you can ask some doctors and say, what happens if I don't do it? And the answer might be, this is the risk you run. And then you would ask, well, what's the percentage risk that I run if I don't do it? Or what happens if I wait? Or what happens if we just observe what's going on? All of those are legitimate questions. Legitimate questions to ask. And now, of course, I've given you the backup with the Cochrane review so you can see what the literature states. We will go to it from a dental perspective. Patients will come in. They come in with a problem, and there are certain problems where it may make more sense to observe rather than to treat. And we've got to have that judgment call. We've got to be able to say, let me take a look at you in 6 months and see what it looks like. Let's take another x-ray in a year and see what that looks like at that point. Because right now, I'm not sure that the treatment that I'm going to do is going to benefit you. And the last thing I want to do is have you waste hundreds of thousands of dollars with me when I'm not sure I can give you the results. So let's just observe. Let's just see how things are going on over a period of time. We won't let you get into trouble, but let me take a look at it again and make sure that we're making the best decision for you.
Really makes all the sense in the world, and I think one of the things is to realize that balance exists. The doctor is giving you what they believe is the best advice or circumstance, but usually that's why whenever there's a particularly big deal involved, everybody says, it's wise to get that second opinion because you yourself may not have the skills or the knowledge or the understanding. But if you get to a second doctor and the second doctor is confirming what the first doctor says, then you can feel you can feel that much more solid about that decision. Whereas if there's there could be another way to go at this, maybe we talk about that a little bit. Then it gives you room to pause, think, go back and ask more questions. And I was thinking, Dr. Sheldon, I've heard you talk on radio shows before where a medical procedure was indicated. You went and did some research and you came back and said, I've balanced out risk reward. I'm going to sit on this one for right now.
Exactly right. I've done that in my own life. And did I make the correct decision? The answer is I don't know whether I've made the correct decision. I really don't. But I at least am going with the percentages and have made the decision based on the percentages. So when somebody says you have to do something, I've gotten that. I've gotten you have to do that. And I said, wait a minute. What about what it says here? What about this? And what about that? And if they're not knowledgeable about that, well, then I've got the upper hand because I've done a little bit of reading. Done a little bit of reading on the subject. So. I also want to, and let me add to this point a little bit if I can, Kerry, because you talked about getting a second medical opinion. And I got to tell you, particularly in these days, there are opinions that are outside of medicine that may be useful to you as well. We can go to nutritionists, we can go to homeopaths, we can go to chiropractors, we can go to naturopathic physicians and hear an entirely different approach to the same subject that may be less toxic and less threatening to you and gives you an opportunity to try something. There are a number of times when I've seen patients, in my own experience, in my own office, where the doctor said, you've got to do this, you've got to take this drug, you got to get this surgery. And the patient says, no, I'm going to take this. I've got what you have to say. I'm going to look at somebody outside of medicine. Will you do me a favor? I want to do this for the next 3 months. Will you do another test in 3 months and see how I'm doing? And so the doctor then is running the objective medical tests to see if you're doing better or not, while you're going to alternative medicine to see if there might be a less toxic and better approach for you.
That's such a good point, too, because really, again, you have to remember you're responsible. We talk all the time. Joe always taught us we each need our own aging plan, and we kind of, to make it seem a little less intimidating, say, let's get our ducks in a row. But the first pillar of that aging plan is health and wellness, because when you have your health, then you kind of have everything else you can work with, and you're pretty much in a position to solve any other challenge you have. And if your health is not where you need it to be, then that's really all you're dealing with. And I think the point that I wanted to get across as we're talking about this is why you have to invest yourself in learning about this. And, it's so interesting, Dr. Sheldon, even though you've built your entire practice for years and you're like the top rated periodontist and everything in our community, it's really become a story of that you see the mouth as just part of the overall body. We're going to take our mid-show break and we're going to come back and we're going to continue the conversation. The doctor as the advisor. Stay tuned.
Hey, now for this second half of Helping Seniors of Brevard with your host, Kerry Fink. Hi, Gary.
Hey, Jim. So good to be here on the radio Wednesday afternoon. It's always great on the lunchtime here, 90.3 FM, WEJF online, WEJF.net. And for those listening along as a podcast, again, we're grateful that you're here. I want to tell you that Helping Seniors is 100% local to Brevard charity. We can always use your help in so many different ways, but we're also here to help you. So I'm going to give you a number that you'll want to jot down. It's the Senior Information Helpline. It's a free call. Last year, we answered it more than 4,500 times with folks, seniors and their families calling about everything you could imagine. It doesn't matter if it's legal, medical, financial, transportation, health, you name it, housing. We get calls about all of it, and we do our best to help callers. I call it senior navigation. We help them navigate to the best safe harbor for that particular circumstance that they're working on. And so part of that we've learned along the way is how important it is to do education, because we know where we get the calls, we know what people are asking us for. And while we can't solve every problem, we sure can lead people in a direction that's going to be helpful. And one of the things that we do as an outreach is that's why we do radio every week right here, every Wednesday on 90.3 FM. And the topic today is with somebody who's very, very much an expert at this, even though I guess technically his role is expert periodontist. We jokingly call him the father of dental implants, but Dr. Sheldon Furtado, Solid Bite, has been a fixture in the community since like 1980, and really to the point where Dr. Sheldon gets called out to lecture at various dental and medical conferences to share his experience, and also to help other practices learn how to do the best they can for patients. And one of the topics that we've talked about, we started talking about just before the break, is that Dr. Sheldon, even though his focus has been as a periodontist on mouth health, he says there's so much more that goes on with your health, and the mouth is kind of like the entranceway. So all these things are interconnected. And that's a little bit what led us to the topic today, the doctor as an advisor. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Sheldon.
Thank you. And thank you, Kerry. And, I've had some great opportunities during my career. I mean, to have been on the hospital executive board when I was in my 30s, to have done a TV show, a health and medical TV show for over 8 years, there's a lot of background that I got here. So I'm happy to bring that to radio, helping seniors and to our patients. And it can be very, very important. We get the idea that there's only one way, and there can only be one way. But over the years, I've had good friends who've been chiropractors and naturopathic physicians. There are a lot of different approaches to health problems, or to being healthier, and that's what I hope to bring. And we're going to on March 13th on Friday. We're going to be going to Mayor Square Mall. We'll do that at 9 a.m. We'll do a walk with the doc, and we'll talk about the things that you can do that are healthy for you, and even answer the question, well, what happens if I say no? Hey, so we just had a staff meeting this morning, and that was one of the questions. What happens if the patient says no? And the answer is that's okay for the patient to say no, as long as we're giving the correct information. In dentistry, we talked about this several months ago. I qualified this, and by the way, I'm going to give this lecture in Oregon at the Oregon Dental Association. So this is now fresh in my mind. There are the have-tos in dentistry and the want-tos. And the have-tos are infection and disease and decay and periodontal disease, and the want-tos are everything else. And we got to be able to, we've got to be very, very clear to the patient as to what is life-threatening or health-threatening. Maybe not so life-threatening in dentistry, but but some areas do contribute to overall lack of wellness, if you will. And what do you want to do? And so I try to make that very clear to every patient who comes in. Here are the have-tos, here are the want-tos. It's your choice. And there are then different choices within that, which have different benefits and different price points. So you're making the best decision for yourself. I'm so proud of my staff. My staff just did some training last week on talking with patients, and what came out from every one of them is that we want to be able to communicate with our patients so that they can make the best decisions for themselves. And it can't be based on threats, and it can't be based on enforcement of ideas. It's exchange of information so the patient can make the best decision. That's what we're looking for in our practice. And I'm so proud. I'm well beyond the time when I am practicing dentistry. I'm only an advice giver at the office now and have been for almost 11 years. And it's so good to see a practice with now a total of 4 dentists in our practice, including me, that have the same philosophy, and patients can feel comfortable walking in. They can feel comfortable talking with us. The staff is so knowledgeable that they can often take the place of what I do. Sometimes they're better communicators, and certainly they know how to read x-rays. They know how to do a lot of things. It's not unusual for me to say, well, you don't really need me. You only need Ashley. Ashley can explain all of the things to you. And Ashley is smart enough, and so is Courtney, and so is Katie, and so is Joy, smart enough to know when they can answer the questions correctly and when they need to get advice from me or from one of the other doctors. So good. And the only way we can do that is to make sure that they are well steeped in how we think, what the different alternatives are, and be able to communicate with our patients really, really well. And that's what part of this is. The title of this topic is The Doctor as Advisor, and we want to give advice. We don't want to say, you got to do this or else. And that's part of what I'm so proud of in this practice and why I still work there.
I was going to say, as a patient in your practice, that is absolutely what I have experienced, is that everybody is very patient focused. Nobody is never feels like somebody's trying to sell you like you need to do this. They really seem like, okay, let's work within the parameters. Let's figure out the best solution given whatever is going on. And I think that's a hallmark of something that the culture that you try to make sure is always present there at Dr. Sheldon Furtado Solid Bite. But let me just expand this conversation for a moment and say, many seniors may not be at a place. It could be a medical office, or God forbid, it could be some other situation where they're actually being pressured into some kind of treatment. And we teach a lot in the scam stuff that we try to train seniors how to stay safe from scams. And one of the hallmarks is when somebody is putting some kind of a fear of time pressure on you, that should raise your nervous system to say, wait a minute, let me slow down and think what's really being said here. Because a scam artist, that's their technique, is that there's this time pressure. Your grandson in Mexico is going to be sent off for the next 30 years if you don't put $10,000 in cryptocurrency or something crazy like that. And these things are obviously exaggerated stories, but people fall for it all the time. And then when you're in a medical office, Dr. Sheldon, where the person in the white coat who has all the knowledge and all the experience, and you have no idea what's going on, comes and tell you this has to be done and it has to be done right away. How do we, as the patient, try to back down some of that pressure and make sure that we are making solid decisions?
Okay, well, let's take that example. So the doctor says, you've got to do this or you're going to blah, blah, blah. All right, can you give me the consequences? Give me all the consequences of my not doing any treatment, and let the person say, well, I told you, you got to do it or else. Well, what does it say in the literature with regard to not doing treatment? What occurs then? And as soon as you say, what does it say in the literature? you're going to get somebody who's going to hesitate if they haven't read the literature. That's the first thing. It's the literature. I spent some time with somebody who I'm very friendly with for many, many years. And he started to run that same thing on me. You better do this or else. And I said, well, what does it say on the literature? And you know what? He stopped talking. He stopped talking. And this is a friend of mine. He stopped talking. And I said, well, I went to the literature and I said, well, we've got if I don't do anything, here's the percentage of problems that occur. And I've heard one doctor say, well, we don't treat based on statistics. We treat you. Well, I'm sorry, but I'll be part of that statistic. If you can't come up and what does the literature say is going to be a big disarmer, then you are now on an even keel with the doctor, and then you can see whether the doctor is working within your best interest or not. And the smart doctor will say, you know what? I haven't read the literature on the subject. Let me do that, and let's make another appointment so we can discuss this further. Or these days, I can go to Grok. And by the way, Grok is a much better research tool than ChatGPT. I can go to Grok and I say, what does the literature say on this particular subject? And instantaneously, I can talk into my phone and we get the answer right back on the phone. So, and there are times that I've done that. And by the way, sometimes I didn't like the answer that I got. But so be it, that's what's there. Now, that does not mean that you can't be treated as an individual. I agree with the doctor to some degree that you're not a statistic, but I'm also going to have that statistical perspective. And there's a lot of medical literature out there that talks about what happens if something isn't done. Number of diagnostic tests that we think are routine, and there are some answers coming out on what happens if we don't do anything, and they may surprise you.
I was thinking as you were sharing that, absent being like, you're in the emergency room and there really is a life or death kind of thing. Isn't it true that probably in most cases, you're not going to lose anything by leaving the doctor's office and saying, let me think about this. I'm going to do some research and I'll call you back in a week once I decide, or if I have more questions after I've looked at this a little bit more. Would that be one way to kind of tackle the situation?
I think that is. And I'm going to give you the doctor's perspective on that question because there's the other side of it. The doctor is afraid that if you say, let me think about it, they're not going to think about it. And we run into a great deal of trouble later on. That's particularly important with an infection, where I've seen infections advance because the person said, well, I don't want to do anything right now. I come up with 3 examples in my career, and it probably occurred more often, where a patient was told, you need a root canal or extraction. And the patient said, that's not bothering me. And 3 times in my career that I remember, the patient then allowed that to fester, put a hole in his sinus as a result. And not only then did I have to take out the tooth, but then I had to do a sinus closure, which is no fun for the patient and no fun for me. So understand that let me think about it means, all right, now the onus is on you for you to do your own research and give yourself a week or 2. For most patients, that's fine to do that research so that you can make a better decision for yourself, then go back to the doctor and say, all right, based on this is the decision I've made, and these are the consequences I'm willing to take. That makes sense. So understand, just putting it on the back burner doesn't mean it stays on the back burner, because if it stays on the back burner, eventually that food is going to burn. So make sure you're taking the responsibility when you say, let me think about it.
Well, yeah, I think what you're saying is so important, because from the standpoint, when you do tell that to the doctor, say, I really want to do my research. I mean, it shouldn't be just a bluff or an excuse to get out of the office. It should be a sincere, like, I really want to understand what's going on here, move. Otherwise, you're kidding the doctor. And let's be honest, at the end of the day, you're just kidding yourself, right? So it makes sense that you need to be sincere about it. And I guess that's one thing, though, I keep coming back to from the outset, is that we don't feel Usually, when we're in a doctor's office, a dental office, or quite frankly, we could be at the car mechanic desk and talking about a repair to our car. We don't feel like we're on an even playing field. We don't like it's like you have all the answers. You being the person behind the counter, explaining, or behind the dental chair, or behind the white coat at the doctor's office. Everybody, you're explaining to us, and then we're trying to parse this out and see, well, is this really what I need to do? And I guess the question is, we got to see it as an equal negotiation. It's like when you go, the same thing happens oftentimes in attorneys' offices. Like the attorney says, well, this must be done. You need to be sure that you're in agreement with the attorney. Like, yeah, that makes sense to me. I understand why we're going to take this tactic, and maybe not just blindly follow. So it's like I don't know, Dr. Sheldon, it feels like it's a dance. Both partners have to be going in the same direction to get where we're trying to go, right?
It is, and I cannot think of one, except for a severe infection where I have to extract a tooth because the patient is going to be in trouble otherwise. The patient's already swollen, and we got to make a decision right away. But short of that, there are very few 100% solutions. There's always a risk and a reward for every decision that you make, and that's why it's important that you have a doctor who's a good advisor, and you can have a conversation with them without feeling as if you're being demeaned in any way. That you can answer the questions. You can answer the questions fully based on, to the best of my ability, to answer those questions so that you can make a decision for yourself. As soon as you hear, you must do that, or if you don't do that, I'm not going to treat you anymore. Boy, oh boy, I would start looking for another doctor. I would do that.
Yeah, I think it's great. I think we live in a free country, and we often forget that we are the customer, and so therefore, without being unreasonable about it, we have a right to ask for information that will help us make good quality decisions. And so, I want to save a couple minutes to talk about some upcoming events and things like that. And I also want to be sure that we share the information on the program that you do, which is a very, very important thing to us as helping seniors, but even more important to patients, called Solid Bite Gives Back. Before we get there, though, I wanted to ask a question. If we've been talking about this throughout the whole radio show about you've got to see the doctor as an advisor, maybe not as the, for lack of a better way to put it, the dictator. But if there's a mindset that you'd like people to walk away from listening to this show and saying, yeah, next time I go in to see Dr. So-and-so, I want to kind of take a slightly different stance, what would that be?
Yeah, the mindset would have to be, I want to be in control of my own decisions.
Mm-hmm.
Walk in with that mindset, polite, keep your manners in, and just ask questions so that I can make the best decision for myself. And you find a doctor who is willing to answer those questions and loves to engage. Boy, have you found the right doctor.
I'm smiling as you said that because I think about the TV show from the 1970s. You remember Columbo, and he would always walk back to the guy that he knew was guilty, and he said, "Oh, just one more question, sir." And he always phrased it very politely, but he knew exactly where he was trying to go with it. And I thought maybe that's I'm joking, but maybe that's kind of the direction. We need to be polite, but we need to make sure that we're comfortable we're getting the answers we need.
Yeah, it's true. And when you were talking about a TV show, I figured sure you were going to tell me about Marcus Welby. So there you go. Well, it's absolutely true, and it's the way it should be, and you'll find, particularly where there is pressure within dentistry to sell procedures in certain settings. Let me say that there are alternatives. You can find some people who are willing to sit down and discuss and help you make the best decision for yourself.
Yeah, which is actually a good segue into Solid Bite Gives Back, because you and I have talked about this, that it's very difficult for the medical office to make good recommendations without complete information. And so when somebody calls up and says, "Oh, I've got a toothache and I need to run in," obviously you guys are very good at that. and you will take the time. But so many people just jump to like, oh, here's what we're going to do about that, and it's done. Whereas when you get involved with the Solid Bite Gives Back program, you're really going at it the right way, because you as the patient are going to get really good information. You as the medical professional will be armed with everything that you need to make the best possible recommendations to the patient. And then from our side as the charity, hey, we benefit because, like I said at the outset of the program, we can only go as far as people help us. And this program, you've raised like hundreds of thousands of dollars for charities in Brevard County since you initiated, and it's really a win-win-win for everybody.
Yeah, it is. And I decided many years ago that in order for me to be able to advise a patient correctly, I need a full mouth series of x-rays, I need a dental CT scan, and I need time with the patient to do a full examination. And if I were to look at what that costs me when I ran the practice, it's no longer my practice, but it's the kids' practice. We still practice the same way. That would cost hundreds and hundreds of dollars if I were to charge the true value of that. And I said, well, people aren't going to spend that kind of money. Let me just get the diagnostic information that I need, and that way I can talk with you about that. And that's what we do with Solid Bite Gives Back. You get the CT scan, you get the full mouth x-rays, you get lots of time with the doctor and with our treatment coordinators. It's a 2-hour experience, and it's done for a donation of $50 to Helping Seniors of Brevard. And that way Helping Seniors of Brevard is supported, and you have the opportunity of seeing us and seeing our doctors and being able to have a good conversation with us. So that you can see not just what the immediate need is, but what we're looking at long-term and where we think you're going to be in the next 5, 10, 15, 20 years. All of that is included in that $50 donation to Helping Seniors of Brevard.
Yeah. So, Dr. Sheldon, it's a terrific program. If somebody wants to take advantage of that, how do they get involved? What would they do?
Just give our office a call of 321-259-8000, and you want to participate in the Solid Bite Gives Back campaign, and one of our great staff members will set that all up for you.
Yeah, it's a great way to get a good experience in what we've been talking about today, the doctor as advisor. It's really a good program, and I think it's when you see how you're treated, you'll get a good understanding of how you could apply this, actually, I think, to other doctor visits and things that you have going on. So thanks, Dr. Sheldon, for that. And we're so looking forward to being together on Friday morning at the Merritt Square Mall. We're going to gather 9 a.m. for Walk with a Doc, and Dr. Lee Sheldon is going to be our fearless leader for that. That's going to be a lot of fun, Dr. Sheldon.
Exactly right. And I'm going to give you the definition of the word maltodextrin.
Oh, well, that seems like it's worth heading out for just for that.
Now look at your labels.
Okay, got it. So, hey, listen, another thing that's going on Friday, this is a big deal for us, and I want you to think about this. So come out and walk with us in the morning, but by 1 o'clock, we want you to join us back at the Senior Resource Center because this is our second Friday. We call it Senior Tech Talk, but now it's officially called Senior Planet Tech Talk because we've all been through our training. We are all officially licensed through the AARP Older Americans Technology Services Division. They have a program called Senior Planet. And Bree Prentice, who's our millennial instructor, is going to be teaching our very first officially licensed edition of this great course called Healthcare and Tech at a Glance. So this is a program, it's absolutely free. And the idea is to get us comfortable with tech because, as you know, Dr. Sheldon, if you put in a prescription, they want you to check and see if your prescription is ready using their app. A lot of times, if you do go to a doctor's appointment, they want you to check in, pay your copayment, or do different things on the app. So let's get used to it. It's not going the other way. We just got to learn this stuff. So this is a great opportunity. So Friday morning, 9 a.m., we'll see you at Merritt Square Mall. Friday afternoon, 1 p.m., we'll see you at the Senior Resource Center, 1344 South Apollo Boulevard. And you can call us at 321-473-7770 and RSP for that. And then also, I want to make you aware that Following Thursday, not this Thursday, but the Thursday, the 26th, is our fourth Thursday education series. And I just want to share real quick, we have some really good talks coming up for that. On the Helping Seniors Knowledge College program, which happens 10 a.m. Thursday, the 26th, we have Craig Lansing, who is with Janney Roofing, one of the top roofing professionals. And he's going to talk about home improvements that pay back. You know, you get the knock on the door from somebody in the neighborhood and they say, oh, we can fix your roof and stuff like that. But you never know what you're getting into. And as somebody that invests a lot of time in scam prevention for our seniors, that's the wrong way to do these things. Let's hear somebody teach us about this so we can get things done the right way. The 11 o'clock hour on that Thursday is always our wellness series. And we have Dr. Kevin Kilday with the Faith College of Natural Health who's going to be talking about a holistic approach and how that can help. So that kind of actually dovetails a little bit on what Dr. Sheldon is going to be speaking about on Friday when we do our walk with the doc. In other words, how you can maintain a healthy diet. So lots of good things coming up on the Helping Senior side. Friday, we want to see you out at Merritt Square Mall. Hopefully later in the day, you'll come by the Senior Resource Center. And then a week from Friday, come out. We just say, make the morning out with us at Helping Seniors at the Senior Resource Center, 10 to 12. It's always fun. You get the Knowledge College back to back with the Wellness Series. There's snacks. There's great people. Lots of great resources on hand and door prizes. Let me say that one of the things that Nancy does is everybody who comes out and brings out a table is supposed to bring out a door prize. And I've seen some people go home with some pretty neat stuff. So depending on where you are and all that, it's a fun morning out. Join the club. It's absolutely free. And we have no reason to exist other than to help seniors and their families get the information that's going to help them along the way. Also, I wanted to let you know that on the 28th, which is the Saturday, we are going to be out. Our car raffle is fixing to swing into higher gear. That's our big fundraiser. We're going to be at the Celebration of Cars, which is at the American Muscle Car Museum, which, as you know, on October 25th is where we're going to wind up with the Helping Seniors Grand Drawing. And I got to tell you, the Celebration of Cars has been a lucky show for us. Why do I say that? Because not last year, but the year before, our winner who picked the Chevrolet Colorado pick-em-up truck, he was buying his ticket at the Celebration of Cars. So who knows? This could be a good weekend for you to buy your Helping Seniors car raffle tickets. So maybe we'll see you out at the American Muscle Car Museum as well. So lots of good things going on in the Helping Seniors world. Dr. Sheldon, thanks for all you do to help us in the work of helping seniors and good information on today's radio show. And kind of with that, we're going to bring up the Helping Seniors. I'm going to give the number one more time, 321-473-7770. I know a lot of times as we're talking about dates and events, you might be driving, you might be listening on a headset and you're doing gardening or something. Just call Nancy or one of our great volunteers, 321-473-7770. Say, I heard them talking about this. This is good information. And I would like to know I didn't catch the date or I didn't catch the location, and we can go from there. So kind of with that, we'll look forward to seeing on the next edition of Helping Seniors Radio next Wednesday, if not before, one of these great events coming up. See you soon.